What's up, guys? This is Bradley along with Zach and Dawson on this fine Tuesday evening. You guys will be seeing this on Wednesday, but we're very excited to announce that we have a special guest for this episode, our longtime friend Zuha, who also runs a Ravens page on Instagram. Zuha, how are you doing, man? And let the people know where they can find you, even though most of them probably already know who you are.
Yeah, what's up, guys? I mean, I'm Zuha, aka Mark Andrews, our savior. The basically the Ravens meme page.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm on Instagram. I mean, I post edits on TikTok, I guess, too. So if y'all want to follow that, that would be greatly appreciated. I even have a basketball podcast with actually one of my school friends called Day to Z Pod. If y'all want to check that out as well. But yeah, no, I've known these guys for a couple of years through Ravens fan page group chat. Always talking to them, and yeah, no, I'm excited to talk Ravens ball with these guys.
Yes, sir. Thanks for being on. Um, and we'll put all of Zula's stuff in the description too, so you can follow him on everything. Um, so first question here, Dawson, we'll start with you. Um, so the question was, it feels like we talk about him after every loss these days, but what do you guys think of John Harbaugh yet after another loss with sort of the same storyline?
Yeah, this is a tough question for me right now. I'm having a lot of controversy within my own mind about this, and especially today, I did post on Instagram kind of a little rant slash question and answer for my followers, and it's doing really good feedback wise. But this is a tough question for me because I am a huge John Harbaugh supporter. I love the guy; he's done great things for this team. Obviously, we can all admit that, whether you hate him or love him. But right now, I will say I can agree. I do feel like there is a coaching issue in Baltimore. I'm not going to sit here and blame Harbaugh for all the struggles, but I do think the Ravens' struggles year in and year out do directly correlate to the head coach. And when I say that, I talk about, games that we go into unprepared, undisciplined, terrible challenge opportunities, wasted timeouts, and just blown leads, and just going into games where realistically you should win. And the Ravens, unfortunately, don't. And we've seen that multiple times. I would say probably for a few seasons in a row now. And it's unfortunate. And obviously, we're a great team. We have a long record of success. We have the second longest tenured head coach, so something clearly is working. And like I said, I'm not blaming Harbaugh for everything. I'm not saying you fire him and it's sunshine and rainbows because that's not the case. It's very hard to find a coach to his caliber and a guy who can bring you long term success like he has. But I do think that his time is running out in Baltimore. I think now that you are in year 7 of Lamar Jackson, and I mean, obviously we have a long time left with him, but I think you're in year 7 and you've still failed to yet reach a Super Bowl once. And realistically, that should be something that has happened probably a couple times by now, given who you have at quarterback. So it's unfortunate. I do think that the Ravens could potentially benefit by moving on from Harbaugh and potentially going after someone on the offensive mind of the ball to kind of help this offense. And I'm not saying that in a way like the offense is struggling. I'm just saying I do think a younger offensive minded head coach would do wonders for this team, given who we have on this team. And it's just unfortunate to see this team, how good they are every single season, have multiple games where they just literally self implode and beat themselves. It's be different if the Ravens were literally getting outplayed and losing, but the fact that they're literally losing, beating themselves, and I would say a large part of that comes from poor coaching. It raises a giant question mark above John Harbaugh's head. And like I said, it's not like you fire him and it's all good from there, but I do think he is somewhat of a liability for this team. I do think that losses do fall on his shoulders. And I don't know, it's tough to sit here and talk about it once again after the Ravens go into Pittsburgh and fall flat on their face once again. Now 1-8 in their last 9 against Pittsburgh. It's very unfortunate, and it seems like it's just Mike Tomlin and Andy Reid are the only guys that give the Ravens trouble nowadays. But either way, it is unfortunate, and I am quickly shifting to the mind of life after Harbaugh. So we're gonna see what happens down the stretch, and I think realistically, if you fall anything short of a Super Bowl this season in Baltimore, he has to go.
Real quick, Dawson, you talked about that feedback from the fans talking about on your channel. What was it like? Was it mostly negative? Was it mostly positive?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I just checked it here like 15 minutes ago. I have like 100 comments on this post by now, so it's clearly doing pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I think from what I saw, the majority of them are on the side of he is an issue and he's a liability in Baltimore. There is a lot of like Harbaugh's still a guy and he's you can't find much better, which I 100% agree. Like I said, you don't fire Harbaugh and it gets better from there. You got to go find a new guy and hope that he can even replicate, the longevity and success that you have with Harbaugh. So obviously it's probably a 50-50 split between the fan, but I'm just saying my personal choice is what I just said. But I will say that on that post, I think there is more more bad ones than there is good ones.
Mm-hmm. And shoot, if I told you beginning of the year that your coach can beat 30 of 32 teams in the league, you'd be like, yeah, I'll take whoever that guy is. I mean, you'd be pretty pumped up. Like, I'm a big Harbaugh guy. Like, I'm a homer. I freaking love this dude. I think his culture is like unmatched. It's no shocker that basically any free agent, any rookie that comes here says something about, yeah, this place is just different. Like, it's the place that Harbaugh is built in that way. I think I can side with the fans on the negative side when we talk about stuff like penalties and stuff like weird nagging stuff that keeps happening all year that isn't addressed. Sure, like the NFL, other teams can also have those kind of issues and it lingers the entire year. But for us, it doesn't feel like it usually does. Sometimes it feels like we fix it. And this year with penalties and this time Tucker kicks being inconsistent and just different parts of the team where we can't get consistent great play, it makes me want to point the finger at Harbaugh. It's also the NFL. It's also football. Freaking the push my glass up, freaking oblong object. Football can go either way. And I think that Harbaugh and the Ravens being able to win most of them is a big deal, right?
Yeah, no. I mean, as I've been honestly one of the, even during the like Lamar Jackson era, I feel like I've been one of the biggest like John Harbaugh defenders. Like, for example, take the 2019, right? Titans playoff loss. It's like, okay, you know what? Bad games happen. Like, you really shouldn't lose to the Titans. You should have like been a little more better prepared. But like it makes sense. There's like some red flags like Derrick Henry versus a relatively like weak front seven that was outperforming what they were probably what it should have been, right? Then like 2020, you can like forgive them maybe on the offensive line. 2021, 2022 were the injuries. And then last year, it's like again, you had like a disappointing playoff loss, right? One of the better offenses in the league, only scoring 10 points. Defense holds Patrick Mahomes to not a single point in the second half. And but like it's like you look at it as like, oh, this is the furthest we made it. So that's why I was like still like not like I was like I saw like the issues with Harbaugh, but I was like I'm not ready to fire this guy yet. But like from what I've seen this season so far, and even like these like couple of losses that we had, I still was like trying to give John Harbaugh it's another chance. It's another chance. Like this team will bounce back. Like, but like it's like the same issues against the same teams. Like not even the Chiefs and the Steelers. Obviously, we struggle against those two teams the most. But even like you look at the Raiders and the Browns games, those two teams have a combined 4-16 record, 4-16, and we lost to them. And like a lot of that comes down to just not properly game planning for your opponent, like playing down to your opponent, not properly not being like ready for what they like. It's any given Sunday. It's every game is different, and it just felt like the Ravens just like sometimes they just come in. Sometimes they come in like locked in, and they'll destroy the team that they're playing against. Like I mean, they beat the Bills 35-10, right? Yeah. But then there's like other games where it's just inconsistent. It just looks like they just don't have their way. They like go away from things that they do well, and like they go away from it so much and they don't like adjust to it later, and it screws them over and they lose. Like the Brown, like yeah, it's and then like another thing is the penalty, like things like the penalties, right? We came into the Steelers game, most penalized team in the NFL by like 8, I think, right? What do we do against Pittsburgh? We commit 12 penalties. 12. like penalties is one of the biggest like things that comes on coaching. Same thing with even like with ball security. Like that's one of the biggest coaching things ever. Like and I remember like like John Harbaugh like earlier he would like literally as soon as like a rookie would like fumble like the ball, he would bench them for like the next like 6 weeks. Like
Tyson Williams,
yeah, biggest example of that. So I mean, yeah, it's clearly at this point it's kind of evident on coaching. It's like at this point all you can do is just kind of hope that he like that something does like click. They finally like pick up on some of these like adjustments and like the issue is they'll adjust, but then they like the other team will out adjust them by that time, and then by the time they finally like get onto their like feet, like it's too late. Like that was the case in the Steelers game on that final drive. They scored the touchdown. too late. I mean, you're down 8. Browns game, you can even say the same thing. Like, yeah, they were doing just enough to like keep themselves in the game, but then it still wasn't enough. So it's just like, and yeah, like, and of course, like when you say like, they beat 30 of the 32 teams, yeah, that's great, obviously. But the 2 teams that we can't beat are the 2 of the teams that we see the most, and the 2 of the teams that we need to beat the most.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't. They just don't show up. The team at times looks mentally weak. And again, as you guys said, it's not all on Harbaugh. I would even put some of the blame on Lamar Jackson. Like, you got like, this is a big game. You can't like, come in so antsy, so like uncomfortable looking. Like Lamar looked like he was like trying to like play hero ball almost at times against the Steelers. And that's not all his fault, but he also like, you also have to like have some composure, and it's like, it feels like sometimes Lamar Jackson has that, sometimes he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it's like a lot of issues, but like coaching is definitely one of the bigger ones. Definitely.
Yeah, it's interesting how the Ravens struggle so much against the Chiefs and the Steelers when, like, in the Lamar Jackson era, well, at least with Lamar playing, the Ravens are 10-1 against the Bengals, and also, dominate the Browns as well for the most part. It's an interesting topic because at what point do you get tired of losing the same way? The Ravens never get blown out. I mean, was the last time the Ravens got blown out in London with Flacco in like 2017?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, not counting
That might be it.
when there's a backup quarterback playing, obviously, like the
Mhm.
Josh Johnson game. But
That one Burrow game, maybe.
yeah, that's a
No
good one.
Anthony Brown. Wait, no, that was a different
So like
quarterback.
2021 is the last time the Ravens got blown out with Lamar playing quarterback. I don't know. It's like the Ravens could be so outmatched and it'll be a close game. Like that's just who Harbaugh is. At what point do you get tired of losing the same way? The Ravens, I'd say 2023 and this year, the Ravens have, top 5 roster, and they've lost to 4 teams this season that, I mean, we could even say the Chiefs, like they have a worse roster than the Ravens. I don't know. I think I agree with what you guys are saying. Like, it's you hope to improve every year. So it's like last year, even though the Ravens got to the AFC Championship and, basically put up a stinker, that's the longest they had gotten in a long time. So Harbaugh kind of got a pass. This year, you'd like to see them make the Super Bowl. It's not looking as probable right now as it did a few weeks ago, or maybe like in October, but we'll see. There's an interesting question later about the playoffs, which I kind of want to hold my thoughts on that for later. But before the next question, Zuha, I just wanted to ask you one thing. How did you feel about the Mike Macdonald Harbaugh situation last year? Like, what was your take on that?
I think honestly, the Ravens really didn't have a choice. I mean, look, you went 14-3. You basically had your best season with Lamar Jackson, the quarterback, up to date. Yes, the Chiefs' loss was disappointing. We all know that. Like, the Ravens had a better team than the Chiefs, and they were at home. It's a game they should have won. But like, you can't, as good as a defensive coordinator as Mike Macdonald is, like, you can't just fire John Harbaugh. Like, you're 15, 16-year, like, you're thinking about like maybe like how the players are playing on the field, and that's one thing. Yeah, maybe if Mike Macdonald, like if you just look at purely on paper, maybe Mike Macdonald would have this team 11-0. You wouldn't know, maybe, right? But like, there's a lot more things that go into like a coach firing, coaching change than just like what the product is on the field, and that affects the product on the field, I should say, actually. And that's, I mean, the culture change that would shake up so many players. I mean, don't you think that would be on like, like half the players' minds that like, like they're brought in by this coach, especially like, like for some guys that have been on this team for a long time. Like, I mean, obviously, I mean, I'm not like saying like maybe not the most important, like even like Brent Urban, right? He was drafted by the Ravens in like 2015. And then he all of a sudden, the coach that's been like there 8 years of his like NFL career, all of a sudden gone, even after their best season. Like you just kind of can't do that. And I get it's like a tough situation because Mike Macdonald, we knew he was a generational coordinator, and he's been a solid head coach for the Seahawks as well. It's a tough situation, honestly. I think it was just unfortunate, the timing. Like if we were in the same position like this year as we were last year and we disappointed, maybe then I would say, okay, yeah, get rid of Harbaugh. We can go to Mike McDonald. But like, you just can't really do anything about it, honestly. I think, yeah, it was just like, yeah, it's just a tough situation. You can't fire Harbaugh in that situation.
Yeah, I like that.
It's a good point. You can't just boot a coach out when you literally have home field AFC Championship
Yeah.
game and you went
Yeah.
14-3.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So next question, Zach, we'll start with you on this one. Do you think the Ravens can still win the AFC North?
I think they still can. Yeah. Like, I'm not sure the percentage is really high in my mind. I think the Steelers can still keep rolling. They have still a lot of the divisional games left. I believe all of the divisional games left besides the one that they just played against us. So you're talking about the Browns who are just trying whatever they can. The Bengals who are trying to win to stay near the conversation and keep players happy. And then you got the Ravens one more time. Let's say by the time that they play the Ravens, it's for the division again. Let's say they somehow drop one. There's still opportunities to where you can win the division. I'm just not sure it's going to happen. I think the Steelers have their feet all over throats that everyone that they play. I mean, I'm stupid impressed by how they're winning games. It's like what we talk about for like Harbaugh. Zuha just mentioned it. Like, Harbaugh can stay in these games. Brad, you mentioned it too. You stay in these games all the time. It's like the Steelers do it every single time, but they have a lot more of a chance to lose them. And this year, it's all going their way for the most part. So I think that it's just their year. That's how it's going. They have a great team on all cheap deals and playing really their hearts on their sleeves. Like we kind of just got to watch last week, where they just kind of made a few more of those crucial plays to beat a team to the caliber that we held the Ravens at. So sure, I think, Browns and Bengals can give them a little trouble. Maybe they kind of split with them, but I still think it's their division to lose right now. I think it'd be pretty tough for the Ravens to win it.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I think Zach nailed it on the head right there. I think undoubtedly this is going to come down to the last couple of weeks of football, like it always has. And this year it's the Pittsburgh Steelers, it looks like, over the Cincinnati Bengals fighting the Ravens to the end, which, screw Cincinnati. I would prefer Pittsburgh to be right there. But Pittsburgh is a fantastic team this year. Like Zach said, I like it's a good point. It's kind of just feels like it's their year. They're really good. Everything seems to be going their way. They have a team that before the season on paper, realistically, you could think maybe they win 9 to 10 games, and here they are at 8-2, first in the AFC North, and beat us last week in a weird game. But I will say, Zach said it too. They have every single divisional game left on that schedule outside of the one Ravens game. They have the Browns twice. They have Cincinnati twice. Let's go down their schedule real quick. We're not going to predict anything, but I'm going to just give you a rundown of Pittsburgh's schedule then this season.
I want to hear it. Yeah.
This is brutal. They go to Cleveland this week on Thursday Night Football. They go to Cincinnati next week. They come back home against Cleveland. They go to Philadelphia. They go to Baltimore. They come home against the Chiefs, and they play the Bengals at home.
Holy.
That is a rough stretch.
Wow.
Their schedule is a gauntlet. I think it's the second hardest schedule to finish off the season in the NFL.
Wow.
So, by all means, Pittsburgh is a fantastic team. It does not get any easier here for them. They have an absolute gauntlet to run through the end of the season. And Ravens have a tough schedule too. Not to that magnitude. Not as hard as that one looks. And like we know the Ravens, they can lose to anyone. But just looking at the schedule for Pittsburgh, I don't know, man. I think this is going to come down to the second game in Baltimore, luckily. And I think really whoever wins that runs away the division. I think that game could very well. I think both teams could come into that game literally with the same record. I mean, realistically. And, who knows what's going to happen. It's the NFL. It's any given week, kind of like Zach said. But I think it's going to come down right to the end. And Pittsburgh has a really, really tough schedule, dude.
Go ahead, Zuha, unless you don't have anything.
Oh yeah, no. Well, I'm just trying to remember what I was gonna say.
I can tell. I can talk. You're good.
Oh, okay. So basically, to Zach's point, like I'm just trying to remember. It like slipped my mind.
I can go if you want.
Yeah, you can go. Actually, yeah.
Okay, so I just had I was messing around with the playoff predictor today, and I was basically picking Ravens and Steelers game to figure out how this works out. And as you guys know, my roommate Henry that we had on, me and him have been talking about it recently. I'm just like 8-2. I'm like, how they're 8-2? Like, you easily go 12-5 if you're 8-2. You know what I mean? Like that's So anyway, what I was doing is okay. So if the Steelers go 5-2 in their last 7, the Ravens can't win the division even if they go 6-0. If the Steelers go 5-2, they win the division no matter what. If the Steelers go 4-3 in their last 7, the Ravens would need to finish 6-0 in order to win the division. If the Ravens go 5-1, then in that situation they still are a wild card team. If the Steelers go 3-4, the Ravens could finish 5-1 in their last 6, and obviously one of the wins would have to be against the Steelers. If the Steelers go 2-5, the Ravens would still need to finish 4-2 in their last 6, with one of the wins being against the Steelers. So it's not a very high chance, guys.
Dude, but their schedule is so.
It's very, very hard.
I don't care what anyone says about Cincinnati. I don't care what anyone says about Cincinnati, dude. They are going to give Pittsburgh everything they have. Dude, Cincinnati could literally mess around and sweep Pittsburgh. Cincinnati is not bad at all.
Sure.
They're 4-7. Their offense will give Pittsburgh's defense a really, really tough time. So I don't know, man, but vice versa. So will Pittsburgh's offense against Cincinnati's terrible defense.
And also, Ravens have the Eagles, the Texans, still,
but
all that.
I don't know. They have the Browns choice, which is kind of like 2 gimme games.
Yeah. You got any thoughts over there, Zuha?
No, I finally remembered what I was gonna say. Okay, so back to Zach's thought about how they're always in these losing almost positions, but they scrap out wins. That's honestly, I'm gonna go back to the last point, Loki. That's a coaching thing, right? I mean, that's a really people call it devil magic with the Steelers and Chiefs, right? but dude, it's as much as I might hate to admit it, that's just good football. That's good coaching, and the Steelers know how to knowing how to win those games is a very important thing to win games in the NFL. If you don't, I mean, that's why the Chiefs have made it to 3 Super Bowls. Anyways, back to the point that I was going to get to about the AFC North. So, I mean, that's how the Steelers are 8-2, right? They play really, really good situational football. I mean, we saw it for ourselves last week when the Derrick Henry fumble, that interception where the linebacker stole it off of Justice Hill. The the stop, even the stop on this 2-point conversion, even though that was just a really bad play call by the Ravens as well. Those plays are really important to winning close to that's a skill, legitimately a skill. So even with that okay, now back to the AFC North, right? That makes, even with that really tough schedule, the Steelers could still win games getting through that way. Even against the Eagles, I could see them being getting outplayed, but then they just make that 1 or 2 right plays, that gets them that win. Chiefs, it might be a little bit tougher because they're the Chiefs, but now the divisional games, those will be, I think that might be where the Pittsburgh actually falls a little bit. I don't know if they're going to get swept, to be honest. I think they'll beat Cincy once. I think they'll split with Cincy. I think with Cleveland, it's
one Cleveland. Please take one, Cleveland.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, please, Cleveland. If there's no games that you're going to show up for the season, just show up for that one.
They're saying that, baby. Come on,
come on, Jameis Winston, do what you did to Baltimore, bro.
No, for real, no. But back to the realism of the Ravens winning the division. I mean, yeah, this loss did put Baltimore in a pretty tough situation. Pittsburgh is favored to win the division, but if the Ravens do beat Pittsburgh at home, at least that will kind of neutralize that game, and it'll even it out. It'll just put the Ravens game behind pretty much. And the Steelers will definitely drop a game at some point besides the Ravens. They're not, I know that again, as I said, they play really well in those tight games, but there's no way they beat all of Kansas City. They're not going to sweep Cincy and Cleveland and beat Kansas City and Philly. They'll drop some games. And Baltimore now, so it really comes down to Baltimore just playing well in the final remaining games that they have, which I believe they can honestly do. Because honestly, okay, the next question is going to be about the offense, I know, but I think the offense is I'll just say it quickly, real quick. I think the offense is fine for now. Defensively, I think they'll actually improve a lot going forward, especially now with Darius Washington and Tre'Davious White stepping up. I think two of the biggest problems for the Ravens defensively were Brandon Stevens and Marcus Williams / Eddie Jackson. So I think Zach Orr, honestly, he almost, I mean, I don't want to jump the gun yet, but he almost had it. Honestly, he hasn't even been that bad this season. He's had a couple of good games, like Denver.
Yeah.
He had a good game versus Denver. He had a good game versus Buffalo.
Yeah.
So I think, and that Steelers game, like especially where they found that Darius Washington is actually like really good.
Yeah.
He was literally hitting open field tackles against Darnell Washington,
He's
who
a
was
foot
like,
shorter than him.
He was like triple
shorter.
the size of the guy. He literally lowered his shoulder and tackled him. Like,
dude, no, he's literally a foot taller. Dude,
Yeah.
Darnell Washington's 6'8", Darius Washington's 5'9". That's insane.
There's a 70-pound difference in these people.
Yeah.
And you got this dude going lowering his shoulder to tackle. It's awesome.
Dude, nah, he's a dog.
He's a dog, dude.
He is a dog.
I think he will genuinely change this defense, and I think that might lead to the defensive breakout that the Ravens have been waiting for all season.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, last 3 weeks, the defense has looked good. They shut down Denver, who has a really good offense. I mean, obviously, everyone's seeing what Bo Nix is doing right now. He's incredible, dude. It's insane. I mean, incredible. And, I mean, we shut down Denver. Cincinnati scored a lot of points against us. Cincinnati scored a lot of points, and obviously we know what the damage was done there. But we had so many pressures, and the pass rush the last 2 weeks, bro, has been phenomenal. I mean, we are getting to the quarterbacks. We are this defense the last 3 weeks compared to the previous 8 weeks or whatever is a lot better, and it's awesome. And I hope this is exactly what we're going to see. We talked about it in all the pods before. Hopefully they can start stacking some of these games and kind of build this momentum, build this confidence, and hopefully take off in the second part of the season. And like Zuha just said, the addition of Tre'Davious White could pay off dividends down the season. I mean, he had a pretty good outing in Pittsburgh, given the amount of snaps he played. Darius Washington was shoved into the starter role, played 100% of snaps, and played a great game, dude. The pass defense was phenomenal. The only reason they had any sort of air attack, and it was very minimal, was because Brandon Stevens is – we know that story. I mean, it's seriously, this defense, man, has been – the last 3 weeks, I have no complaints. And if this is what we get moving forward, man, I don't see any reason why the Ravens can't be right in the thick of it come playoff time.
Like, I don't want to jump the gun, but there is a chance that the Ravens actually do win out. Like, I don't want to sound biased, but like, I think the Ravens genuinely could win out. I'm not saying they will. They probably won't, honestly.
I mean, it's happened multiple times.
Yeah,
it's
in the
happened
last
before.
5 years. So
exactly, it's happened before, which would mean that we're on the path to this exact same season, which is bad. But anyways. Like it's honestly possible, and I could definitely see them at worst going. I can see them going 5-1, still taking the division. Am I saying that's happening? No, but I don't see why the Ravens can't win the AFC North. It's not over for them. It's not over.
Yeah, for sure. We got 2 questions down, 2 to go. If you guys are listening right now, be sure to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and yeah. So we'll get into the third question, Zuha. We'll start with you on this one. Are you concerned at all about the offense, or do you think it's just a one-game fluke?
So, I already started talking about it in the last question, but yes, I honestly do think I do think it's a one-game fluke. Pittsburgh always has Lamar's number. Pittsburgh always does. I mean, even the one game that Lamar did beat Pittsburgh, he threw 3 picks. We remember that. I'm not worried about the offense. I'm only worried about the offense against Kansas City and Pittsburgh. Like, I think they'll bounce back. The Chargers have a good defense, but I think we'll be able to do enough. I mean, we put 41 on the Broncos. Well, if we can put 41 on the Broncos, that just shows you that this team can do that against literally any team. Same thing with Buffalo. I mean, I guess Buffalo doesn't have as good of a defense, but still 35 points. Like, Baltimore will be fine offensively. Baltimore will be fine. I think Todd Monken will straighten himself out a little bit more as well. I think literally it's just the offense is not fine against Pittsburgh and Kansas City. I think a big factor in that is just the underusage of Derrick Henry. I looked at it, looked at the stat muse for when Derrick Henry has under 15 carries. We're 0-3 in those games. Okay, I get I will defend the Ravens play calling a little bit in this situation because if you like watch those games, you will see like, okay, Derrick Henry gets stuffed 2 plays in a row, and then the Ravens are in a 3rd and long. So like I get like why they do, like why they might pass a little. Like take the Browns game for example, right? Derrick Henry is low key getting stuffed. The Ravens are being put in bad passing situations. The offense is not going, so you might want to switch it up, throw the ball a little bit. But at some point, you also have to return to Derrick Henry. And because, I mean, this guy's one of the best closers in the league. I remember, like, seeing a stat in, like, 2020, I think. I don't remember what the numbers are exactly. But it's, like, his numbers, like, compared to the first 3 quarters, like, they go significant. Like, his yards per carry in the first 3 quarters, like, high 3, low 4. Not great. But then you look at his 4th quarter, it's, like, 5.6, 6 point something. Like, and then we didn't give him the ball a single time in the 4th quarter against the Steelers. Not a single time. So, like, taking a break from Henry doesn't mean completely go away from him. Like, you got to eventually come back to, like, the guy that is on track to win Offensive Player of the Year. Although Saquon's giving him a good run now. But, yeah, no, like, you got to trust your running game a little more. It hurt us against the Titans. It hurt us against the Chiefs this last year. It hurt us against the Steelers this year. You gotta keep the defense honest. You gotta, because eventually, I mean, and we even saw it in the Steelers game a little bit too. Actually, Derrick Henry eventually, after like getting stuffed a few times, he was breaking like a few like 20-yard runs here and there. I feel like if they stuck with them, they kept on trusting that. I know like they were down, but if you keep on trusting that run game, eventually it will, like especially with Derrick Henry, it will pay dividends. I think the Ravens just need to do like a better job at calling, like balancing run and pass in the 4th quarter, even when they're down.
Perfectly
I
said.
agree with, yeah, that was great. I agree with Zuha 100% there. And I like how he pointed out Derrick Henry not getting a carry in the 4th quarter, which absolutely baffles me, dude. Like, that is just a recipe for disaster. And I get, Harbaugh is always saying, certain players are in for certain plays. And it's like, yeah, obviously, but you got to have the NFL leading rusher in at least once for the 4th quarter. That doesn't make any sense. But I do agree. I think this was kind of a 1-game fluke. Pittsburgh, unfortunately, always has they have something on us. They have some weird trick with us, and they always make this Ravens offense look silly and nothing like how they really should be. This week we'll probably go in LA and put like 45 on the Chargers, and then the following week against Philly, and it's just like, looking back, you put 16 points on Pittsburgh, and it's like, how does that even happen? Because the previous weeks you put up 40, and then the following weeks you put up 40. I'm not concerned over the offense. Obviously, this offense is fantastic this season. It's had its games, ups and downs like every unit and every other football team has every season. But overall, this offense is still like one of the best in NFL history. If you look at the crazy deep diving metrics, I mean, this offense is phenomenal, dude. And, you look at the game, like I said, Pittsburgh always has our number. We just historically play down to them all the time. I can't tell you the last time we played Pittsburgh and had a glamorous offensive showing. I literally cannot tell you. So I don't think it's anything to panic over. I don't think anyone should be freaking out. I think the greater thing is the defense showing life. And, obviously the offense had a stinker on Sunday in Pittsburgh, and it sucks, but I have all the faith that they're going to bounce back, and I don't see why they wouldn't be able to, even with all the new additions and getting healthier and more time with Deontay Johnson and more time with Keaton back. And just, I mean, you're going to add more fuel to the fire come playoff time, and it's going to be great. And realistically, they're pretty healthy right now. But I do want to point out real quick how Zuha said, there's a lot of points in all of our games, but if you're looking specifically at Pittsburgh, because that was our most recent game, there's a lot of drives where the Ravens get themselves into really bad positions early on in the drives because they get like a false start or a holding penalty, and it blows your drive right up from get. And if you're in a 3rd and long, obviously no team's gonna obviously dominate in that metric, so it sucks because the Ravens put themselves in bad positions constantly, dude. I mean, it's insane. And I think Patrick McCary leads the league in NFL penalties this season. I think that's a real stat, boys. I saw that on Twitter earlier. That's insane. And overall, obviously, the Ravens lead the league in penalties. Everybody knows that. It's insane, and they lead by like 10. But it's hard when you keep pinning yourself back and getting penalties, and you're just, trying to abandon the game plan because it's not working in the 1st quarter, or, Pittsburgh's defense is showing you something you weren't ready for, clearly. And, I think obviously Lamar Jackson didn't play his best game. We all know this. We're not crapping on the guy at all, but he didn't play his best game. He was off. He kept trying to force things downfield that were just not given to him, and it just wasn't working. And they kind of kept doing it till the end of the game, and it didn't work, unfortunately. And, they kind of had the way of Derrick Henry that game. He had one long run, but other than that, he wasn't a very big impact in this game. But I think the play calling was kind of poor at times, and just overall, the penalties. The penalties screwed the Ravens offense literally all day long. And I'm not blaming the refs at all. These were penalties that the Ravens deserved because they're over here holding guys and getting false starts. And it's like, we just can't do that. You're going to ruin your drive before it can even start. I mean, how many times do we see the Ravens in a 1st and 15 or a 1st and 20 before they can even start the drive? It happens literally all the time. And at that point, hostile territory against a team you already struggle historically with, you're just asking to lose. And that's exactly what happened, unfortunately. So I'm not concerned with this Ravens offense. I think it's going to bounce back. But kind of going off the first question of the Harbaugh, it's weird that there's a pattern here, and the Ravens can never seem to break it. And they always struggle against the same teams. And I do think it's a very large, weight on the shoulders of John Harbaugh. I think this is large part due to him, and obviously Todd Monken as well and everybody else. But, coaching is what causes this team to historically always drop these games at Pittsburgh. So, it's just kind of one of those wrinkles in the history of being a Ravens fan. You kind of just kind of overlook it. And it sounds dumb to say that, but it's realistically the truth. You kind of just kind of overlook it and move on to next week, because when have we ever played good against Pittsburgh?
Real quick, 2 things from me about things that both Zuha and Dawson said. One, so the Derrick Henry 4th quarter thing, I will disagree with that because the Ravens had 2 drives in the 4th quarter.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was Lamar Jackson run for 25 yards. Lamar Jackson passed to Derrick Henry for 15 yards, penalty, called it back, and then the interception. So can't really blame it there. And then the other drive was a touchdown. So I would honestly push back about the Derrick Henry 4th quarter thing because they had 2 possessions. One was an interception, one of them they scored on. I still would like to see him get the ball more in the 3rd quarter. They get away from it, and like Zuha, you said this perfectly. They get away from it and they never go back to it. Is what the problem is. In terms of the offense struggling, so the Ravens had 12 drives on Sunday. 4 of them were just killed by penalties. 1st and 20, 2nd and 15, whatever. It's kind of just done from the start. So that's 4. 2 missed field goals, so that's 2 scoring drives. That is nothing there. 2 fumbles. So now we're at 8 drives, 4 killed by penalties, 2 missed field goals, 2 fumbles. That's 8 out of 12. 2 touchdowns. So then you're at 10 out of 12. And then another scoring drive with a field goal. And so you add all that together, and 1 out of 12 drives was unsuccessful without a penalty killing it. So they really just penalties were really the issue, and Tucker missing 2 field goals. Zach, do you have anything to add on the offensive side of things?
No, I love the drum that you guys were banging there. I completely agree.
It's crazy how we are now 11 games into the season, and how did the Ravens lead the league by I think 10 or 12? I looked it up earlier. In most penalties. It's insane, dude. We have the second, like I said, I'm not blaming him, but it does correlate directly to the head coach. This is what I posted on Instagram literally earlier today, a few hours. How do you have a 16-year head coach, the 2nd longest tenure in the NFL, and you lead the league in penalties? I mean, that is just absurd, dude. That is absurd. And you lead it by a whole game's worth. Realistically, it shouldn't be, but 10 penalties. I mean, it's just insane, dude. It's sad because it really, I think it was 92 penalties and 753 yards worth. So I'm like, dude, that is horrendous. I mean, that is bad. That's a couple of games that you lose because of penalties.
Dude, it's weird because the Ravens offensive line, they play when they're not committing penalties, right? They play well. They play well when they're not committing penalties. They're giving Lamar time. The run game looks good, but the issue is they are committing so many penalties. I've said it, Ronnie Stanley without the penalties is one of the best left tackles in the league.
Yeah, he's been great this season, dude. He's been fantastic.
Yeah, but then you look at the holdings, the false starts, illegal formations, and
the illegal man downfield penalties drive me through the roof because they have absolutely zero impact on the play, yet they're calling it when it's 30 yards away from the play. It doesn't make any sense. And especially the guys getting pushed on the ground. It's like, well, it'd be different if you had Tyler Linderbaum running routes downfield, but it's like the dude's getting pushed, and it's like it has nothing to do with the play, man. Like, why call it if it has nothing to do with the play? I'd get it if he was running downfield blocking, but he just doesn't. And it's so annoying because the Ravens by far have the most of them in the NFL, dude. It's like the refs are trying to make a statement out of us, dude. It's sad. It sucks.
I guess with that point, I think it's just the nature of the RPO. Like, and
Yeah,
the thing is
true.
with Lamar, he's just trying to make a play. Like if he sees the run's not there, he pulls it down. His run's
Yeah.
not there. Like I'm thinking exactly of the Nelson Aguilar catch, that like one where he mossed
Yeah.
Dante Jackson.
Yeah.
Like he threw that ball away as like almost like a last resort, and then of course Nelson Aguilar had to make the greatest catch of all time on it, and it was called back. Like I saw that catch, I'm like, oh shit, he took like 10 seconds to throw that ball. That's getting called back. I like knew. I'm like, dude, that's all for nothing.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it didn't affect the drive, but still.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Okay. Final question is, what would be your confidence level in the playoffs this year? Zach, I'm going to start with you, and I also want to pose a question to you. Like, so the Ravens are 35% chance to win the division, right? Are you almost more confident if the Ravens are like away underdogs in some playoff games, or would you feel better if they just win this division?
I'd feel better winning the division because that means probably Pittsburgh has dropped a few and they look a little worse and we look really good. So I would vote that way. But if you look at the current division leaders, Texans, Chiefs, Steelers, and you're telling me that we would have to go to one of those places, Bills as well, sorry. You go to one of those come playoff time, like those guys in that environment, no matter where it's at, it feels like it's a tough test, right? Texans a little lesser, but those other three are not an easy win. And I feel a little less confident when you talk about it like that. But the fact that it is away means that I think the Ravens play with a little more chip on their shoulder and they can play a little more confident, which I don't like. I'd rather it just start, freaking against, at this rate, it'd be, one of the top wild card teams, which is still kind of looking like the Steelers no matter what. But this year, with how good the top teams are at just kind of sneaking out wins, it makes me nervous because we could play a pretty good game and still lose. Chiefs game, we didn't start great, you end great, and you still lose. Steelers game, you can start to get going very, very late, still lose. When we're talking about like the penalties, like you guys mentioned, there was 6 against the Broncos, and we blow them out. Then you have 11 against the Bengals, and you somehow sneak one. Like, the inconsistency means that it's another tack on the confidence level for me. It makes me less confident going into a game where it's at Chiefs, at Texans, at Steelers again. And you're probably going to end up with 8+ penalties knowing this team right now. So we're talking about all those drives. Brad mentioned like the crazy stats of what percent really went well for the Ravens given no penalties, no crazy mishaps. And if we're talking about just, a few drives that are left
There's one bad drive without a penalty.
Yeah, if we're talking about, let's say 2, a playoff game, I don't think we win. So we have to figure some stuff out. If you go back to our Q&A with Sutton from the Purple Rain podcast, I'm sitting here saying I feel like it's the best chance that we have as a Super Bowl yet. Like I feel like the offense is just on a high firing cylinder that we can't even like comprehend. It was at that point, yards wise, points wise, a historical level. And if that takes a break one week, the defense has to be there to really bail us out. And last week was a good chance of that where the offense can squeak by. But, it comes out of one play, 2-point conversion. And if you don't get it, that's a type of playoff game. That's a type of playoff moment that would define you and kick you out against a playoff level team. And I'm very much on the lesser side of confidence level than I was a few weeks ago.
This is a really good question because obviously there is a ton of speculation within the Ravens fan base, given the Ravens have had the first seed with 14 plus wins now in 2019 and 2023, and also their other playoff appearances they've had in between that. That who knows? Obviously we're not getting the one seed this season. I think we can all agree on that. It's not going to happen, and we're probably not going to win the division. I would say there's a decent chance, but realistically, asking me, I would say the Ravens are probably going to make into the playoffs as a wild card seeding position. I don't know which one yet, but I do think they'll probably be a wild card team this season. If you're asking me personally, I think I want to see this team go on the road in the playoffs. I think historically they play better on the road. I don't know what it is, dude. I don't know what it is. This team on the road plays a different brand of football. And I think it's like Brad said, there's just a chip on their shoulder. There's nothing to lose. They don't expect us to be here and win. We're going to do it. And obviously, like Zach said, the thought of going into Arrowhead, the thought of going into Buffalo, the thought of going back to Pittsburgh, and even the thought of going into Houston, which we will see in just a few weeks, come Christmas time, it's daunting. It's scary, dude. These teams are really good. It's scary. However, we already beat Buffalo. We kind of handled them. I get it. Different circumstances, get different situations happen, but we beat Buffalo. We played with Kansas City, tail and neck, right with them. We in Arrowhead, and we realistically probably had a good chance to win that game. We're gonna see against Houston, but go off last year. We swept them last year with C.J. Stroud. I get it, rookie year. And then who am I missing here? Pittsburgh. Obviously, we know that story. We've been talking about it the whole time. I think I'm aboard the train of the Ravens go in as the underdog and go in on the road and just play that, play football, dude. You're not, they don't expect you to win this game. Go do it. And I don't know what it is. I want to see it. And I'm not just saying this for entertainment purposes. I genuinely want to see the Ravens go on the road, round one in the playoffs, and do it. I don't think I hate to say this, I really do more than anyone else, but I don't think our home field advantage is this elite top three home field advantage come playoff time. And I hate to say that because the bank's absolutely fantastic, but I don't think it compares to Buffalo, Pittsburgh, or Kansas City, to be honest with you, in the AFC, man. I just don't think it has that magnitude of impact on the game itself specifically, just because we've seen this so many times in recent years and the Ravens just fall flat on their face, and it's unfortunate. I do agree with Zach. I think my confidence level is a little bit less this season, even no matter how far we make it. If we're home field in the AFC Championship somehow against Miami, I just still I think my confidence level is a little bit less, just knowing what the Ravens have done in recent years when they've had the one seed, man. I mean, seriously, they fall flat on their face every year, and it sucks, dude. And again, this goes into the coaching thing we mentioned, but I mean, realistically, how do you expect us fans to have hope when the last four times they've seen it, they've just fall right on their face? I mean, how can you logically be like, "This is the year, boys, we're going to Super Bowl," when this is the same situation we've been in the last four times? That's just my outlook on it. Obviously, I'm confident. I think this team 100% can win the Super Bowl this year, and I'm saying that as an unbiased perspective. Obviously, they have the tools to do it, and with the defense now improving, it gives it even more reason to possibly happen. We know what the offense can do; they're fantastic. So, yeah, the Ravens have everything they need to go win a Super Bowl this year, but struggling against two of these teams that you are undoubtedly going to have to run through in the AFC to make it to the Super Bowl, it doesn't look good for the Ravens. And Kansas City and Pittsburgh are going to be right there to the very end. And then obviously Buffalo and Houston look like they're going to win their divisions respectively. It's going to be a really tough road for Baltimore, man, especially if they have to go on the road week one. I will say, though, I'm a little more confident than most. I would say the vast majority if the Ravens do have to go on the road week one. I think there's something to it. And the Ravens always play so good on the road, dude. It's like weird. It's obviously not in Pittsburgh or Kansas City. But if we have to go like Houston round one, I'm confident the Ravens win that game. If we have to go to Buffalo, in a weird way, I'm confident we win that game. Arrowhead and Pittsburgh is a little different, of course, but I think the Ravens can do it. We all remember the Super Bowl 47 season. The Ravens bombed the end of their season away. I think they won like one out of the last five, and then they barely snuck in. And then they went through like legendary quarterback after legendary quarterback and just made a run and won as the underdog. And we're like, Joe Flacco had like one of the greatest postseason records of all time. It was stat lines of all time. It was fantastic. We all remember that. So the Ravens can do it, and they have the coach that did it before. So why can't we do it again?
Yeah, I agree with both with what Zach and Dawson said that, like, in the fact that I do think that the Ravens do play better as the underdogs. I think they play with Like they play better when they don't have expectations, when they have that pressure on them. I feel like there's less pressure when you're coming in as an underdog, just because people don't expect you to win. With that being said, I would like them to have at least one home game. So if they could win the division at least, not even as a high seed, like fourth, well, they won't. They would probably be the 3 seed. Like at least get that and play like an easier team at home, because I feel like if they got like, say they got the Dolphins, not the Steelers,
like the Broncos in Baltimore or something like that.
Mhm.
yeah, like something like that. Like if they got a matchup like that, even at home, I'm pretty confident they win that game. I mean, we saw what we did to the Texans last year. I think we'd be fine in that situation. And then if we had to go on the road to play a couple of tough games, then that's like, for one, you built up your playoff confidence by winning that home game, and then you can like go on the road and be your underdog mentality, and then like push your way to the Super Bowl, hopefully. I mean, when you look at this roster, also as you guys said, I mean, honestly, on paper, look at the Chiefs and look at the Ravens. The Chiefs' offense right now, I know they have Patrick Mahomes. They suck right now. Their offense kind of sucks right now. I'm not going to even like lie to you, like even like try to sugarcoat it. Their offense is not great. We held it to 0 points in the second half last year, as I said. I mean, they've struggled. I mean, I know the Broncos have a good defense. They still only put like 16 points on them. Against some of these, like if I pull it up right now, I could like tell you what the Chiefs have done offensively. Obviously their defense is good. I won't discredit their defense. Their defense is good. But even with that being said, if you like got rid of like all the like psyche, the mental aspect, all the coaching and everything, I know that's a huge part of it. But if you like looked at just the rosters, the Ravens, like if they played like the Chiefs, like they were like any other team, like they were like the Bills, even the Bills, they would win by 20. I'm not saying, okay, I hope that doesn't get taken out of context, because no, I do not think that the Ravens would beat the Chiefs by 20. No, I'm saying like roster wise.
It makes sense. What
Yeah,
you're saying makes sense, because you're talking about the psychological warfare that, like, oh my God, we always play bad against the Chiefs. Like, if the Ravens played that Chiefs team on paper like they play anyone that's not named Pittsburgh or Kansas City, the Ravens would probably win comfortably. I get what you're saying.
yeah, exactly. Like I'm not trying to sound like overconfident, but like I mean, we've seen what the Ravens have done against some of these, even against the Bills, as I've said, they won 35-10. Now, with that being said, the playoffs is different, and obviously we know that's not going to happen. The Ravens aren't going to go into Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs by 20. If they did, that'd be nice. I mean, hey, like we did beat Tom Brady 28-13 in that AFC Championship game. You never know, but I think it's just, you just gotta like this team just has to believe in themselves. They can't like let that like mental monster get to them. Like, oh, I'm playing Patrick Mahomes, the pressure is on. Oh, I'm in the biggest game of my life, the pressure is on. I think they just gotta, as Dawson said, just go out there and play football, man. Like just go be yourself, do what you've been doing all season, do what took you that far in the playoffs. And I think that would help the Ravens. As of right now, I'm not like I wouldn't put the Ravens in the Super Bowl as of right now from what I've seen. Would I be surprised if I saw the Ravens in the Super Bowl? Hell no. I wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens did make the Super Bowl even at this point in the season. But I do think that the Ravens do have a couple of things to sort out. I do think they have a lot to prove when it comes to like playing a team like Pittsburgh or Kansas City, and actually, getting over that mental hump and just getting over that barrier of beating those teams. And I mean, look, law of averages say eventually you got to beat them, right?
You have to, dude. You have to eventually.
Yeah, I mean, we're not gonna lose. I mean, like the 40. I'm trying to think of a good example, like the Rams, for example. Oh yeah, actually, the Rams Super Bowl run is actually a really good example, right? I think they got swept by the 49ers that year, actually, in the regular season. And that was something that they always struggled with, even in the playoffs, like, playing against the 49ers. And then they have that one good enough game that gets them into the Super Bowl, and then they do their thing. They win the Super Bowl. I think that the Ravens just have, I mean, even in the regular season, we saw that against the Chiefs, like the one game they won 36-35, the Odafe Owe fumble game. I think they just, like, it's in the NFL playoffs, it's such a thing where like you just need to win one You just gotta go 1-0 every week. You just gotta get hot at the right time. It's not like the NBA, NHL, any other sports playoffs or MLB, or like you have to actually be better for like a consistent period of time. Like you just got to be better for that game that day. If the Ravens just play their best football each game and every game, like we know they can, that'll be enough to they just can't be caught off basically. And if they can just get hot enough, that's why I was also saying earlier in the season, like I'm low-key happy that we aren't peaking yet, because we've seen the Ravens last year. They won like 7 straight after beating Cleveland or something. I don't even remember. They won 12 straight in 2019. That's insane. So the thing is, they cooled off at some point. If we get hot at the right time, no one's stopping us. And as you guys said, the offense is historical. The defense has potential to be really good. It's not good right now, but it has the potential. And we talked about this earlier as well. Yeah, I think the Ravens can do it. Am I fully confident in them right now? Not really. I think coaching is still going to be a thing. The mental aspect is still going to be a thing that they have to get over. But I think the Ravens can. If I had to say on a scale of 1 to 10, probably like a 6-5, right in the middle.
Yeah. I really don't have anything to add to that. Basically was agreeing with everything you guys were saying. Basically what I was agreeing with Dawson and Zuha about was what I asked Zach. There's just something weird about feeling more confident going to a game as an underdog on the road. Obviously it'd be nice to play a wild card team at home in that first round, but other than that, I mean, Ravens will probably have to beat the Chiefs and the Bills both on the road to get to the Super Bowl. So it'll be interesting, and we'll see what happens. Anyone have any final thoughts coming out of this one?
I just thought of something that absolutely terrifies me.
Yeah.
Can you boys imagine if Pittsburgh gets the 1 seed in the AFC Championship in Baltimore? Imagine if we have to go into Pittsburgh for the AFC Championship game.
Well, not most likely, but there's a very strong chance the Ravens play the Steelers 3 times this year.
Definitely.
So,
oh my God, dude, that's the last team I want to play.
Whether it's like a 5 and a 4 or whatever.
I legitimately think I would rather play Kansas City than Pittsburgh in the playoffs.
Honestly, I can kind of agree with that. Honestly,
no part of me wants to go into Pittsburgh for a playoff game. It's the last thing I'd want to see. That is the last thing I'd want to see.
I mean, hey, to be fair, in 2014, when we did split with the Steelers, I think we won at home and lost on the road. We did beat them pretty well in the wild card game on the road. So, yeah, I mean, hey, you never know.
Yeah.
It's about getting hot at the right time, like you guys mentioned. I love what Zuha said earlier about the pressure, it's a different pressure of being the number 1 seed playing the freaking worst wild card.
You feel like there's nothing to lose and you can just go all out.
Or but there's also pressure when you're the lower seed trying to beat the top guy. It's a different feeling of pressure where it's like
a David and Goliath feeling.
It's giving yourself pressure. Yeah, it's instead of the media making you, you're the number 1 seed, you're supposed to win, it's you're putting pressure on yourself. Yeah, where we got to go beat the number 1 dogs.
Which I think that's what works the best is internal pressure. So
yeah, I'd rather the Ravens lock in themselves than not let other people get to their head.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that's all we have for you guys tonight. Zuha, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Be sure to follow Zuha on Instagram. We'll put it in check out his podcast too, his TikTok. We'll put everything in the description. Appreciate you guys for listening. Like and subscribe. We'll be back probably Friday with a Chargers preview. So thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you guys later. Peace.